Mission Yozakura Family, a series alongside Undead Unlocked that I consider to be Shonen Jump's most recently underrated manga, and a secret third one that I hope to cover in the future once I caught up to it. So with the manga recently ending earlier this year, I think now's a good time to start reviewing this series involving this chaotic family of spies. So let's get right into this. The manga was created by Hisuji Gundara, and funnily enough, they initially didn't even want to become a mangaka. Their passion was more into oceanology, plants, insects, and deep-seated creatures, and drawing was more of a hobby. It was only by pure happenstance when they were in college that decided, why not, and gave drawing manga a shot, participating in the 43rd Jump Treasure Newcomer Award, resulting in them winning an honorable mention. This, along with winning other manga one-shot awards, cemented Gundara's decision to change careers and become a mangaka after graduation. Their first manga that was serialized was Demon Prince Poro's Diaries. It didn't last very long. Luckily, their next manga was more of a success and is the subject of today's video. Mission Yozakura Family was serialized in Weekly Shonen Jump on August 26, 2019, and ended this year on January 20th, 2025. Releasing 29 volumes, some light novels, an anime adaptation that released last year, several voice dramas, and a radio show. Yes, a radio show featuring the Japanese voice actors of Taiyo and Mutsumi discussing information regarding the anime adaptation. I was surprised by the amount of media beyond an anime adaptation this series has, but maybe it shows the difference in popularity between the West and the East. The story begins with a tragedy as a young woman is being carried by her older brother surrounded by an aftermath of a battle, with the older brother vowing the sister he will protect her no matter what. We then get introduced to the main character, Taiyo Asano, who also had a tragedy happen to him as he lost his family in a car crash a few years ago. This accident causes him to distance himself from others and avoid making connections with people. The only person who can still talk and has a connection with him is Mutsumi Yozakura, his childhood friend. She made him lunch for that day and offers to feed him some, but they were interrupted by their vice principal Hirokara, who grabs a bite out of the lunch and displays creepy behavior towards Mutsumi. And he continues that creepy behavior when he calls Taiyo to his office after class and shows him pictures of Mutsumi when she was younger. Normally, this type of behavior would send Hirokara a one-way ticket to prison, but it's going to be explained in a second if you already haven't figured it out yet. Because he's been watching Mutsumi for a long time, naturally, he takes on the role of chasing away any boys who might have an interest or want to get close to her. He made an exception to Taiyo because he's Mutsumi's childhood friend, however, some circumstances arise that cause Hirokara to change his mind and get rid of Taiyo permanently. After all, what kind of big brother would he be if he can't look after his little sister?
Saw it coming.
But before Hirokara can carry out his plan, someone comes by to take Taiyo away and flashes Hirokara with a flash grenade. When Taiyo wakes up, he's surrounded by Mutsumi and this colorful cast of characters, including the one who rescued him. Mutsumi quickly explains that these are her siblings and dog, and together they all have a job. It's nothing big, just your normal, regular, everyday job of being a spy. And Hirokara is the eldest and the most skilled out of all of them in the family. Also, his name's not even Hirokara, it's Koichiro. So remember how on the first page Koichiro vowed to protect Mutsumi? Well, he takes that vow very seriously, as on top of feeling guilty for allowing Mutsumi to get severely injured, which resulted in her silver streak hair, he became an overprotective, possessive brother who interferes in Mutsumi's everyday life and relationships. Recently, he got a tip that someone is targeting Mutsumi. It gets explained in the next chapter, but Mutsumi is the current 10th head of the Yozakura family, who, despite being born ordinary compared to the rest of her siblings, can produce offspring that will inherit the Yozakura's incredible abilities, making her a constant target for unsavory people. Now that he's received the tip that the person who's after her has been close to her for many years, he finally has a reason to eliminate Taiyo and is heading to the mansion to finish him off. Since the siblings know Taiyo is innocent and they can't reason with Koichiro, they plan on beating the snot out of him. However, the second oldest, Futaba, proposes another solution to their problem. That Taiyo and Mutsumi could get married, which would integrate Taiyo into the family, and force Kirichiro to stop his assassination plan because of the no killing among family rule. Sounds simple enough, and both parties do reciprocate their feelings towards each other. However, Mutsumi refuses, out of respect for Tayo's feelings and trauma. So it's back to plan A.
Hey, I don't want to be left out of the fun. I can help you strategize.
Well, that plan didn't go well, as Kirichiro quickly defeats each of his siblings, including a disguise plan involving the middle child Kengo and Mutsumi, while Tayo hides somewhere. Kirichiro offers that he'll give up Tayo, but at the cost of Mutsumi's freedom. Mutsumi was about to say yes, but Tayo reveals himself, telling her that he's willing to execute Futaba's plan. He understands Kirichiro's motivation to protect. However, if that protection goes so far that the person you're trying to protect becomes scared of you, maybe it's time to rein it in. Plus, even when Tayo initially wanted to distance himself from Mutsumi, she stayed, promising to stay by his side, and now Tayo is willing to do the same to uphold that promise. After shedding some blood from Kirichiro's threads, Tayo finally grabs the other half of Mutsumi's ring and officially becomes part of the family, promising to protect what's important to him, including Mutsumi. So that's chapter 1, and this may be a bit of a hot take, but I prefer Mission Yozakura Family over SpyX Family as the better espionage family themed story. Oh shit! Not that SpyX Family is a bad series, I do love the found family trope after all, but I don't know, maybe it's because I grew up in a large and somewhat chaotic family myself that I gravitate to this a little bit more. This is probably going to be the start of a multi-part review series, so if you're interested in watching more of this, please leave a like or comment if you enjoyed this video. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. So with that shameless plug out of the way, let's move on to the rest of the video. Starting with... I mentioned before how this manga and Undead Unluck are underrated gems of their respective genre, to the point where I considered them to be sibling series, not only because they were serialized around the same time, but also because both creators share a favorite manga that influenced their work, being Hunter x Hunter. Gandara has also mentioned that their other favorite manga includes Demon Detective Noragami Nuru and One Piece. I believe One Piece and Hunter x Hunter are the biggest influences on Gandara's art style, as the character designs are reminiscent of Hunter x Hunter, although the faces are a bit more rounded in some instances, with exaggerated cartoony expressions and poses. The color illustrations also carry this soft yet explosive look, similar to an acrylic painting. It's like the colors carry this level of layering and blending with the shading, along with sprinkling in, I guess you can call them white particles for some extra flair. Another thing to point out is that it takes a page out of Ruby by incorporating a primary color to associate with each character, making them visually distinct and stand out. For example, Tayo is red, Mutsumi is blue, Kirichiro is black, Futaba is white, etc, etc. And on the subject of characters, let's start with Tayo. Despite experiencing a traumatic event after marrying into the Yozakura family, Tayo slowly begins to open up and bond with the rest of the family. And put an asterisk on that family part. It's commendable that he manages to adapt to the spy lifestyle as a normal person in spite of being part of an extraordinary family, while also maintaining a warm and generous personality, as some of his most defining traits when it comes to his character are his compassion and determination. Even in the cutthroat world of espionage, Tayo will stubbornly refuse to kill any opponents, like a teenage version of Sakamoto, and utilizes non-lethal force to either try to restrain or incapacitate them to the best of his ability. However, his commitment to protecting Mutsumi from any danger causes him to develop a level of paranoia about any assassins, and remain constantly vigilant of everything around him and Mutsumi. Next, we have Mutsumi, a kind and caring individual who is willing to do anything for her friends and family, and takes her responsibility of being the 10th head very seriously, after previous head's untimely death. The relationship between her and Tayo is very loving and sweet, with them often supportive of each other in their plights. Hell, Mutsumi loves Tayo so much that you could argue that she has the same level of phonetic love as Kirichiro, but shh, we don't talk about that. Now it's time to talk about the rest of the family. There are 7 members, yes 7, I'm counting the dog, besides Taya and Mutsumi that I'll quickly go over starting from youngest to oldest. For starters, we have Nano. He displays an innocent and honest personality, often telling things straightforwardly rather than lying, and would rather solve issues non-violently than with full-on force. It fits well with his occupation being the family scientist / doctor, to the point where he's willing to try out dangerous or malicious experiments with disregard for other safety, though this isn't always followed through. His ability is immunity, which can neutralize poisons and reinforce his physical form. However, his human form is a lot more difficult to maintain control of, which is why he's often seen in his mutated form. But from this, he's able to modify and change the size of his body parts through the mutation, allowing him to become stronger and help out his siblings on the battlefield. Next, there's Kengo.
It's a little bit dangerous, my friend. You need a mindset change for this. You can.
Sorry, I just thought it was fitting. Kengo can be best described as a free spirit, only doing things because he wants to and they're fun, and would laze around if he feels like some assignments would be too much work. Even in battle, he doesn't take things too seriously and would have fun messing around with his opponents. I feel like he and Desahiko would get along pretty well. I don't know why, maybe because they both yellow and have the same specialty that they could become friends. They'll probably cause chaos somewhere. Kengo is also like the Mikey of the Yozakura family, always there to joke around in order to raise everyone's spirits. And just like with every Harlequin of a group, joking around is more of a front to mask their true feelings. And Kengo is no different. Because of his abilities revolve around disguises, it adds on this extra layer of walling his emotions while empathizing with others, to the point where he finds it difficult to fully trust people's kindness, but acknowledges that there are some genuine people out there. Kengo would have been my #1 favorite character if certain events later in the manga haven't happened that caused me to change my mind about a certain someone. But hey, sharing second place isn't too bad. And who does Kengo share second place with? Why, our next member, Shion. She and Kengo have one of my favorite family dynamics, being this chaotic duo akin to Rice, Leo, and Donnie. Shion acts like an aloof and nonchalant person on the surface, but underneath she's passionate about video games, writing poetry, drawing art, and enjoying the magical girl genre, with the latter 3 she's embarrassed by, along with her soft side for cute things like babies and animals. Her rational and analytical mind plays into her ability to hack and control devices / services to assist her in her missions, causing her to be naturally lazy and handle a lot of her work indoors and online. Then there's Shinzo, a quiet and low self-esteem individual who's a total pushover when it comes to his younger siblings. His knowledge and expertise in weaponry are his specialty. Oh hey, that kinda rhymed. In fact, he always has one of his guns on him, and without them on his person, he becomes distressed. But regardless of his flaws, if Shinzo focuses on something important when armed, he'll lock in and try his hardest with every task, wanting to live up to the expectations others set for him. Then we have Goliath.
The dog doing?
He's a good boy. Second to last, we have Futaba. She is the most caring of the siblings and the mother figure of the household. Unlike someone else that I know who I'll get to in a minute, she maintains a calmer, more distant approach in protecting her siblings, with her being strict sometimes, but she generally wants the best for her family. Despite being the shortest, Futaba can hold her own in a fight thanks to her abilities revolving around her monstrous strength and her expertise in martial arts like Aikido and Jiu-Jitsu, to the point where her hands are trained enough to take large amounts of force and redirect them with no damage to herself, so it would be best not to get in a fight with her. Or get her drunk, because that's equally as dangerous.
Hey, watch out! When Vixis is drunk, she doesn't hold back at all!
And finally, there's the eldest of the family, Koichiro. Now, this is gonna sound outlandish coming from me, but Koichiro is unironically the best character, my all-time favorite.
Huh?
I know, it's crazy, right? I just went over the first chapter and how much of a creepy, stalkery helicopter brother he is to Mutsumi, and he still has those traits even after Tayo married into the family, except this time it also includes messing with Tayo. Granted, the manga doesn't let him get away with his creepy and torturous behavior, and will punish him so often that it's a running gag in the series. Despite all this, he's incredibly perceptive and caring, using every opportunity to praise his siblings, and is easily susceptible to kids due to his elderly brother instincts. He really does get better as the manga goes along, so I'm going to put a pause on his character right now, as there's a certain arc that I wanted to dedicate to fully dissecting Koichiro's character, but unfortunately it'll be in a future video, not this one. So the manga readers are already caught up with this series, you probably already know what arc I'm talking about. And that's about it for all the main cast. I'll briefly mention the secondary characters in a few minutes, but it's time to move on to the next segment. The manga is structured similarly to a slice-of-life anime, except there's guns, espionage, and family blood superhuman powers. The first half of the manga focuses on Taiyo becoming a spy strong enough to protect Mutsumi. Well, that's easier said than done. He does eventually get the hang of it, and we get to see the daily life of some siblings as well as get a taste of their personalities. I mean, it makes sense, it's in the name. It'll be counterproductive for the manga to not focus on the family, and the manga provides a lot of those character moments in spades. Even in later events of the manga where major enemies are threatening the family's lives, the manga still maintains this balance of goofy shenanigans of the family with sincere, heartfelt moments. Because at the end of the day, beyond the espionage stuff and the superhuman abilities, they're a family. A dysfunctional family, but still a family nonetheless. Some people might find the pacing a bit slow for the main plot to take center stage, but I personally didn't mind. I was invested in this family and the spy world Gandara built, such as how each spy is ranked by either bronze, silver, or gold. There are multiple occupations a spy can integrate into everyday life. They collaborate with the police force on some occasions, and how most spies, including the Yozakuras, receive missions and intellect from a coalition of spies called the Spy Association. Really, there wasn't a chapter that I found boring, insignificant, or a waste of time. Except for this guy. Here's the challenge for all you manga readers out there. I want you to go into the comments section right now and guess what this guy's name is without looking it up. If you guess correctly, I don't know, I'll leave a like and a heart on your answer. I'm not kidding when I say I completely forgot about this guy. To the point where I initially thought that he was a side character from another manga that I was reading at the time. Yeah, this guy doesn't really contribute much at all, other than to make Taiyo jealous, which one is stupid because Taiyo is married, and two, there's already somebody else who does a better job at making Taiyo jealous in a brief scene. And Gandara must have realized this because after the 2 chapters involving him and a few brief cameos, he's never mentioned again. It's kind of funny because I remember just about every side character from this series, including an extremely stealthy character who is Taiyo Mutsumi's classmate that nobody notices named Sosuke, and a sane stalker spy named Aika who hunts down men she likes to kill them, including Taiyo, but becomes the family's maid for the rest of the manga after Mutsumi saved her life. I even remember the spy curator who has a thing for Taiyo when Taiyo took his first spy license. But anyway, before I move on, I want to highlight some of my favorite chapters. Chapter 40 involves a glimpse into Mutsumi's duties as the family head, but it's mostly about a game of chase between Mutsumi and Kengo after Kengo refuses to do some of the most squirrely responsibilities every adult is forced to do: cleaning and completing paperwork. He eventually does get caught in a clever way that relies on Mutsumi's inner knowledge of the house and Taiyo. It's fun and it highlights Kengo's gremlin personality, which, hey, I'm all here for. Chapter 30 revolves around the Yozakuras going on a monthly shopping trip. I like this chapter because of the simplicity of the Yozakuras doing mundane tasks and the scenarios that come from it, such as Futaba having a back massage from all the stress she carries every day, or Koichiro going to a hidden bookstore to purchase a torture book on his latest victim. 3 guesses on who could that be? The chapter ends with the family getting into a fight with people from the black market and collapsing a story floor in the mall, which I'm not surprised by, and I have a feeling this is why they do monthly shopping. Finally, the last chapter I want to highlight is chapter 28, which plays on the whole marriage cheating / misunderstanding trope to showcase Taiyo's compassion towards Korichiro. When he heard Korichiro was running out of his favorite tea leaves, he took it upon himself to get him some more with some assistance. Taiyo knew that if he told Mutsumi about it, she'll mention it to Korichiro, who Taiyo believed would not accept the gift, hence the secrecy. I like how throughout this chapter, Mutsumi has faith in Taiyo's loyalty and knew that there had to be a logical explanation behind his actions, while Ayaka was the one who had initial thoughts of cheating due to her overactive imagination. And I especially like how, after everything gets cleared up, Korichiro is touched by Taiyo's kindness after everything he put him through, even if he doesn't display it outwardly, but that's another topic I'll save for another time. Things start to ramp up after Taiyo accompanies Mutsumi on an errand to meet with a government spy agency named the Hinegaku. Taiyo already had a run-in with two of their members, Sue Aoi and Oga Nigami, although it was less of a run-in and more of Sue almost killing Nano, and Taiyo felt powerless to stop him. This causes him to shadow Sue until he manages to get a hit on him, earning Sue's respect. After getting acquainted with Ren Fudo, Hinagiku's general manager and Korichiro's old schoolmate, Taiyo was offered a job to investigate a corrupt political party headed by a man named Kurayuri, who's reasonably under suspicion for acquiring explosive and hiring triplet spies to do his dirty work. You know, typical politician stuff. Taiyo eventually uncovers Kurayuri's schemes. However, on the way to Hinaku's headquarters, Kurayuri reveals some personal information about Taiyo despite not being familiar with him, including the accident that killed his family and hinting that the accident may have been a setup. It's also revealed that Kurayuri is a spy named Kuragao who quickly escaped to carry out the remainder of his plan, which is a revenge plot to kill every politician who was involved with the assassination of him and his daughter. Taiyo prevents Kuragao from carrying out his plan, and I respect for Taiyo for winning against him. He'll tell him everything that he knows. Why am I not surprised? Kuragao slips Taiyo a piece of paper before dying, which leads to Taiyo discovering some very intriguing information. Not only were Taiyo and Mutsumi's families familiar with each other way before either of them was born, but they also have a common culprit who is responsible for causing the major tragedies in both families. And the name of this culprit is an organization known as Tampapol. Tampapol is the main antagonist in the first arc of the manga and is one of the organizations currently targeting Mutsumi. Korichiro was already looking into Tampapol after the tragic incident that kicked off this story, which includes the loss of the previous head, Mutsumi's mother, Rei. However, despite his vast network of information, he was never able to catch nor gather information about them, but Taiyo's connection with Tampapol gives Korichiro the clue he needs to find a lead. It's discovered that Taiyo's accident wasn't the only one that occurred, as there were 15 similar incidents involving the deaths of medical field professionals like Taiyo's parents, and there's one person who was connected to all of them, Makoto Kawashita, the leader of Tampapol. After infiltrating Kawashita's current medical office in disguise, Taiyo finds Kawashita's plans, which involves something called the Somein Yushino Project, a project seemingly trying to replicate Someini, a protein in the Yozakura blood that is responsible for the family's enhanced 5 senses and abilities. But since there's no real synthetic way of producing it, Tampapol needs Mutsumi's pure Someini heart to mass-produce biological weapons. Kawashita appears before Taiyo can uncover more and makes his escape. The next time we see him is in chapter 44, where Taiyo receives a tip from an ex-Tampapol member about Kawashita's whereabouts at a luxurious hotel called Dandelion, which is as subtle as a slap to the face. Taiyo confronts Kawashita, but just like last time, Kawashita leaves before Taiyo can get more information. However, before he left, he gave the owner of Dandelion Nomen his latest drug called Yozakura, Tampapol's poor man's attempt at replicating Someini. While the drug does give the average person a power boost, they must be fully compatible with the drug or they face serious side effects, like bodily mutations with large swollen muscles and visible pulsing veins like Nomen here. Tayo tries to take on Nomen, but the drugged up man was too much for him. Luckily, Shinzo was in the area and deals with Nomen while Tayo evacuates the guests through conventional means. But everything so far was all part of a plan that involves Tayo, as after evacuating everyone, he's confronted by a mysterious man who not only suspiciously has the Yozakura family ring, but somehow managed to severely injure Tayo without a weapon. I wonder who this mysterious person could be. It's their father. It's the family's father named Momo Yozakura. I had a feeling he was gonna make an appearance soon since it was foreshadowed earlier during Tayo and Mutsumi's wedding reception. Something that I wish the anime did, but that's another subject for another day. Anyway, Momo has been in cahoots with Kawashita ever since the family's incident, with his motivations being left in the dark, at least for now. With Tayo being close to death, Shinzo takes him back to the Yozakura Manor, but Tanpopo takes their chance to attack the Yozakura Manor since the family is contained in one location. While the siblings are preoccupied with the mutated Tanpopo soldiers, Momo activates a special protocol that raises a fortified wall surrounding the manor, trapping Mutsumi and Tayo inside, including a mutated soldier that got past the siblings. With the power cut off and her back against the wall, Mutsumi has no choice but to gamble on her Yozakura blood being compatible to save Tayo's life. And, of course, that gamble pays off, as Tayo regains consciousness and deals with the mutated soldier. Once they get the confirmation that both Tayo and Mutsumi are alright, the rest of the family quickly deals with the rest of the soldiers, while Korichiro confronts his father to take back the family ring, so Momo doesn't take advantage of the benefits from a family he abandoned. But as I stated earlier, all of this was part of Momo and Kawashita's plan to lure Tayo in, get him close to death, and create a situation where Mutsumi is forced to rely on her blood to save Tayo. It would have been awkward if their plan failed through and Tayo became a mutated monster, but hey, that's main character plot armor for ya. Kawashita and Momo continue the testing of Tayo in chapter 55, where Tayo begins his search for Momo after promising Mutsumi he'll find him to get some answers from him. His search leads him to a tourist train, where he infiltrates it to find Momo's whereabouts. Momo and Kawashita were already on the train, so they set up a trap for Tayo using hallucinogenic gas throughout the train. Once Tayo discovers the gas, he breaks free of it along with the rest of the passengers. Kawashita and Momo make their escape again, except this time Kawashita wants to collect data on Tayo's newly awakened powers. So one of his members, Yuki Sarai, or as she's commonly known as White Snake, is tasked with fighting Tayo while Kawashita and Momo watch from another carriage detached from the train. While fighting Tayo, Yuki secretly reveals she knew Tayo's parents and feels responsible for their deaths after their involvement with her previous illness. But anyone with eyes can see that she was no more than a victim after Kawashita transferred to Tayo's parents' hospital looking for someone to test out his new Yozakura drug, with Tayo's parents only agreeing due to Yuki's declining health despite its high risk. The drug was successful for Yuki, however after killing Tayo's parents to tie up loose ends, Kawashita summons Yuki to basically blackmail her into joining Tanpopo since he saved her life, and Yuki agrees out of obligation. Despite the drug saving her life, her body can only tolerate it for so long, as the Yozakura is starting to lose its effectiveness after 10 years, meaning she'll die soon. So she wants to use her last remaining strength to repay Tayo for her selfish living by telling him he can use her GPS tracking earrings to track down Kawashita so he and the Yozakuras could put a stop to him. Tayo agrees to this secret mission, and in the aftermath of the fight, Tayo reassures Yuki that his parents' death wasn't her fault and gives back her earrings after scanning the data with his ring to give her some sense of peace. Now that the Yozakuras have Kawashita right where they want him, they team up with their allies to take down Kawashita's hideout called Mission Yozakura Frontlines. This mission is also very personal for the Hinagaku, as Sue, Olga, and Rin were all Tanpopo child experiences that escaped, and the main reason why Rin founded the Hinagaku. But before they raid the hideout, they must sharpen their skills and prepare for the upcoming fights, especially Tayo, as he barely scratched the surface of his newly awakened powers. Luckily, the family's grandfather Bon, no, not that Bon, although it would be entertaining to see these two hang out in a bar somewhere, comes by to help train Tayo. This is where we get the introduction of blooming, which is the Yozakura's complete awakening akin to limit breaks from Final Fantasy. Every family member, except for the family heads, has a blooming that reflects their personality. For instance, Futba's blooming of nullifying any danger reflects her caring nature. Kengo's empathic personality helps his blooming in allowing him to fully understand any opponent he's assimilated with. Shinzo's blooming of destroying things at a cellular level comes from his fear of the people he loves getting hurt. Shion's analytical mind evolves into her blooming of reading and understanding data at supercomputer speeds. Nano's blooming takes a page out of immunity by allowing him to adapt his body to overcome situations, environments, people, poisons, you get the idea. For special cases like Bon, Tayo, and Momo who married into the family, their blooming is granted by the heads of the family sharing their blood, which only happens once in their lifetime. Yozakura users can also develop a blooming, but their blooming is more of an upgradable ability rather than an evolution. Another thing to note about blooming is that it can be triggered through either the usual method of intense feelings of emotion or by being near those who already possess one, causing a resonance and the somani in their blood to be simulated. Bon used both methods, and after giving Tayo a heart attack by drawing a gun to shoot Utsumi, Tayo activates his blooming for the first time, that being hardening, which can harden his body to absorb blows. While it's more of a defensive than an offensive power, it fits well with his desire to protect his loved ones, most importantly, Mutsumi. And after finalizing the goals at a cherry blossom viewing party, Mission Yozakura Frontlines officially begins. The Yozakura family and their allies arrived at Kawashita's hideout on Skeleton Island, where there are three main objectives: to arrest Kawashita, save the human experiments that Tampopo kept against their will, and get answers from Momo. Although Tayo has a secret fourth one after Koichiro entrusts him to find and retrieve Wei's corpse without alerting the others, as Koichiro heavily suspects that the reason why Tampopo can progress their research rapidly is due to said corpse. Now, to save time, I won't go over the upcoming fights, as while they're cool on their own with each opponent being a mirror to Futaba, Shion, Shinzo, Kengo, and Nano, it's mostly there to display the other siblings' blooming abilities and how Kawashita prey on each elite Tampopo member's desperation and desires similar to Yuki. The only one who hasn't showcased their blooming yet is Koichiro, but that's a surprise ability that will help the family later, so keep this setup in mind. It's gonna pay off in a major way. Speaking of Koichiro, thanks to the siblings' efforts, both he and Tayo reached the deepest level of the hideout where Kawashita is hiding. The Bastard already planned a contingency plan ahead by planning a link to a detonation system inside his body, meaning any damage to him, the island goes bye-bye. It will also activate Kawashita's seed sowing project, which is to release major quantities of Hazakura into the ocean, spreading it to millions of people with only a small number of people being compatible with it. And at the same time, everyone else will mutate and become insane, creating chaos. But Shion quickly deactivates the link, and with no hesitation, Koichiro decapitates Kawashita. Huh. Well, that was easy. Guess that means the story's over. Okay, I'll stop with the bit. You and I already know that taking Kawashita down will not be easy. And it gets proven almost immediately when Kawashita is seen regenerating his head back onto his body, revealing several skeletons in the closet. For starters, it's revealed that Kawashita has been alive since 1914, during World War II, where he served as an army doctor. On top of that, he reveals he also has a blooming as well, not the knockoff Hazakura version, but a real pure-blooded Yozakura blooming called Regeneration, which is how he was able to reattach his head and stay alive this whole time. Now, to be clear, Kawashita is not related to the Yozakura family, but it gets explained in a little bit about how he's connected to them. Kawashita uses his regenerative powers to create a power blockade for Tayo and Koichiro as he heads off to detonate the hideout himself. With no time to waste, Tayo uses hardening to break the blockade while Koichiro slings Tayo through to catch up and capture Kawashita. Tayo and Kawashita begin to fight, however during their confrontation, their eyes trigger a blooming resonance, causing Kawashita's memories/motivations to be brought into the light. His memory showed that during World War II, the government tasked him with investigating the Yozakura family and the power in their blood, so they gave him the Yozakura's first head, Tsutsumi Yozakura, for research. Tsutsumi is someone that I want to discuss in another video, but all I can say for now is that while the current Yozakura family views their abilities as an everyday skill, Tsutsumi views hers as a curse. During Kawashita's time with Tsutsumi, they shared the ideal of making the Yozakura power no longer special, causing Kawashita to come up with the seed sowing project, making the Yozakura's power useful to everyone. However, when Japan lost the war, his research was halted and covered up by the government, leading Kawashita to have to work in the shadows thanks to Tsutsumi imparting some of her blood. While his motivations appear to have good intentions on the surface, it shouldn't absolve him of his crimes while having this cold and apathetic attitude. He embodies the old saying, "the ends justifies the means," as he's willing to sacrifice anyone, including himself, to achieve that end goal. And with the possession of Rei's body, all Kawashita needs now is the body of another Yozakura to make Tsutsumi's dream a reality. Kawashita then poisons Taiyo with his blood and triggers another blooming resonance with Taiyo to overwhelm him with memories of his sacrifices and leaves him to die. But to no surprise, Taiyo gets back up by Mutsumi cheering him on and pushing him forward. And with a slash from his weapon Yae, Taiyo terminates the seed sowing project. But we're not done yet, as Kawashita absorbs the Hazakura from the tanks and plans on becoming the detonation system himself. Taiyo tries to hold him off, but Kawashita's morphed body overpowers him with attacks. Luckily, the rest of the siblings are here to help in one last final fight against Kawashita. Even with the onslaught of everyone's attacks, Kawashita's body barely has a scratch. That's when Taiyo notices a small thread connecting to Kawashita's body and exchanges looks with Kirichiro, believing this is where Rei's body is held. And he's proven right when, after breaking through the ground with the siblings' help, Taiyo discovers Rei's body is connected to Kawashita's using crystallized Somani threads. Kawashita tells him that if the red threads are cut, then the Somani supply will be cut off and Kawashita won't be able to contain the Hazakura in his body. It comes at the cost of Somani chain reaction that could destroy Taiyo and Rei's body, but Taiyo has hard-hitting, so with nothing left protecting Kawashita, the Yozakuras all work together to suppress Kawashita and complete their mission. While Kawashita will be sent to prison, Tsutsumi reassures Kawashita that his research will not go to waste, as she sent a certain someone to take care of it. That someone being Momo, who managed to recover Rei's heart before Taiyo and Kirichiro took back the body, and was about to make his escape before Bon confronts and tries to put a stop to him. Momo predictably escapes, so for now, the mission Yozakura Frontlines officially closes. While some questions are still left in the air, at least for now, the Yozakura family can relish in the success of having their mother back, return to their daily lives, and prepare for whatever lies next. And this looks like a good stopping point for this video. Like I stated earlier, I plan on making a review series on this manga since it recently concluded. So if you're new here and like this video, please subscribe so you don't miss the next part. And let me know about your thoughts on the manga in the comments below. Until then, thanks for watching everyone. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and ring the bell for more of my manga related content. I hope you have a decent day and I'll see you next time. Bye!
Take a deep breath